Welcome to the Chuck Whitlock Show, What's the Matter?, where we invite experts from every walk of life to discuss everyday issues affecting our community, your family, and you. Because if it matters to you, it matters to us. You may have seen him on The Oprah Winfrey Show, The View, Extra, or hundreds of other shows. Here's your host, Chuck Whitlock.
With over 7 million people over the age of 65 with annual incomes below the poverty threshold, more retirees are running out of money than ever before. Did you know that research shows that the majority of senior citizens fear not having enough money in retirement more than they fear death? You work your entire adult life setting aside money that you plan to use for a supposedly stress-free retirement. The rule of thumb is that 15% of your income should be set aside each month toward your nest egg. If done consistently, one could accumulate approximately 10 times their salary. But is your nest egg going to hatch the bluebird of happiness, or will it be like Humpty Dumpty and have a great fall? What's the matter up for discussion today? We're going to teach you how to not run out of money in retirement. It's a serious issue. And when we return from a quick commercial break, we're going to hear from two financial planners on how you can live the retirement lifestyle that you deserve. Stay tuned. Before we dive in, let's watch a short video about financial planning for retirement and how it's changed over the years.
Retirement saving statistics are usually pretty depressing. For instance, a recent study from the National Institute on Retirement Security found that the median retirement account balance across all age groups is $3,000. And for those nearest to retirement, the median is only slightly higher at $12,000. Those numbers may be dismal, but they don't tell the whole story. Companies have quietly been shifting their benefits packages for years now, making those paltry savings account balances even more troubling when it comes to younger workers. Today's retirement accounts are not the same as they used to be. Not even close. Here's the difference. In the past, companies provided something called a defined benefit or pension plan for their employees' retirement, meaning the company guaranteed a certain amount of continued monthly income once the employee reached retirement age and stopped working. In that case, the company takes responsibility for saving and investing to ensure that those payments can be met when the time comes. The employee generally contributes nothing other than hard work and years of service. Over time, that benefit has been replaced with defined contribution plans, like the commonly known 401k plan. These are basically the exact opposite of defined benefit plans. Now, the burden of saving and investing is placed on the employee, who must set aside a portion of their own income today to make sure they have income during retirement. In some cases, the company will provide a small match, but that pales in comparison to the defined benefit plans of the past. For younger workers, their golden years will only be as good as their ability to accumulate savings, something we've continually demonstrated that we are not very good at. In just one generation, our retirement landscape has drastically changed. While 60% of workers over the age of 55 are covered under a defined benefit plan, only 30% of workers under 34 are, and that percentage will continue to decline. There is a silver lining to be found, however. Younger workers may not have the safety net of a pension plan, but they do have more control over their career and savings than ever before. And that's a benefit we all need to recognize and help them maximize before it's too late. For The Street, I'm Lauren Lyons-Cole.
Hi, Tim. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Now, you are an experienced broker with Edward Jones, and you're a licensed financial planner.
Yes, sir.
This whole problem of people running out of money in retirement, I understand that as a group, an age group, more people are running out of money that are in retirement than any other age group. That being the case, and I also heard, Tim, that seniors are more afraid of running out of money than they are of dying. So it's a pretty significant fear. Give me some ideas for our viewers on how they can put some of those fears to rest.
So the bad news is it's a very real problem. The good news is it's a very avoidable problem if we attack it up front. The biggest thing is obviously either sitting down with a licensed financial advisor like myself, or even just you and your spouse, and coming up with a good general overall plan. Now there's a lot of different parts and pieces to that plan, but you need to basically have a roadmap to make sure that as you get later on into retirement, that nest egg hasn't been basically just tapped into so much that it depletes itself.
There are a number of problems that seniors face that might erode their savings. A scam, for example, somebody promises them huge returns and they lose their nest egg. What are some of the suggestions that you have to help our viewers keep that money that they work so hard and long to acquire?
One of the first things that I will say is that even when it comes to picking out your financial advisor, make sure that you're working with someone we would prefer locally, and obviously that has a good reputation in the area, and we always encourage people to do a fact check on them. You can go to the FINRA website, run their U4 forms here if there's been any complaints.
The what website?
The FINRA website. FINRA.
FINRA. You go to that website.
Yep.
And what can you find out?
You get what's called their U4 report, and it will give you their work history, basically. How long they've been in the industry, what certifications they have, if they've ever had complaints lodged against them, so that you know before going into it that you're working with somebody reputable. Obviously, if they work for one of the larger brokerage firms, that's a little bit easier to find. Information is easier to find because of the way the reporting works. So that's what we would encourage, obviously, so that you don't get scammed, because that's been an issue, as most people have heard of, over the past few years. Second, knowing what your budget is that you've set with your financial advisor or your household, however you've done it, and knowing, hey, if the kids move back in, that doesn't mean that my budget here was $4,000 a month and now that the kids are back and now I can make it $5,000 a month. That's obviously going to erode your plan. It goes back to coming up with that strategy, knowing it's a sound strategy, and sticking to it, which is sometimes the hardest part.
By the way, there was just a story a couple of days ago about parents, aging parents, who had to sue their son to get him to move out of their house. He claimed squatters' rights and he didn't want to leave. All right, so sound financial plan initially.
Yes.
And I'm likening that to an architectural plan for a building. You don't just build a house, you have a plan.
Yes.
And if you don't build the foundation, obviously the rest of it's not going to work. So I'm thinking the same thing is true with a financial plan. You need a strategy. Now, explain a little bit about what a strategy is. I know you brought some graphs, and maybe this is a good time to talk about those graphs.
Absolutely.
I want the viewers to understand, especially our senior viewers, how to create what a good strategy looks like. So when they talk to their broker or they talk to you, they know what it is you're trying to achieve.
Absolutely, a good question. So of course, one of the first things we always want to look at, if you haven't started collecting Social Security yet, we want to look at when is going to be the best time for you individually to start collecting Social Security, and what that means as far as what you will get in perpetuity for the rest of your life. Because as soon as you start saying, hey, I'm collecting, you're not going to get a raise on that Social Security, except for our little 2% raises here and there that we hope we can get, that some years we don't get.
Which is probably less than inflation anyway.
Typically speaking, it is, yes, unfortunately. So that's a pretty large decision to make as far as when I'm going to start collecting, because now you're set in, you're dialed in. So as you can see from the graph, that depending on when we take it, if we take it right at 62, like you did, Chuck, unfortunately, you're only getting 75% of what your full benefit would have been if you would have waited till full retirement age at age 66. Now, and if you're able to have the wherewithal to actually wait till 70, not only will you get 100% of what you're promised, but you actually get 132%. The next one I want to show you that goes along with that would be our withdrawal rate, what we're actually taking from the portfolio. Where it used to just be a basically blanket statement that we could take a 4% withdrawal rate and we would be fine. Where we're at on withdrawal rates now is a little bit more conservative. It depends on what age you are when you start taking them. And it's important to know this, because the old saying used to be, it's not how you start, but it's how you finish. Well, it's the exact opposite when we're talking about taking money off a portfolio. Lastly, I wanted to go over asset allocation. Most people think, hey, what matters is if we pick the absolute correct investments, if we have the absolute best dividend-paying stocks in it, or if we time the market absolutely correctly. And that's just not actually the case as far as what really matters most on your returns. What matters most as far as how we're getting our returns is how we have things allocated between cash, stocks, and bonds, and what types of stocks we have inside the portfolio, whether they be those dividend-paying growth and income stocks, as we would say, or they be just straight growth of emerging markets, things of that nature.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers about not running out of money in retirement?
Yeah, talk with somebody, talk with a professional, make sure you come up with that overall strategy, and deal with somebody local if you can, and make sure that it's someone that you feel comfortable with and that has dealt with people that have your similar situation. And that's how you're going to get the best income.
Tim White, Edward Jones, thank you so much for
Thanks
coming
so
in
much,
today.
Chuck.
I really appreciate it.
Pleasure's
We're going to have
mine.
to have you back. This whole
so.
financial planning area is quite a topic. I know that we could probably do many shows on this same topic. Thank you so much for coming today. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Chuck.
it.
I appreciate it.
It seems to me that the only surefire way to protect your nest egg is to be preemptive and practice proper financial planning. But what happens if your money is already gone? Maybe a loved one got sick and you spent your nest egg trying to keep them alive. This case scenario is all too common. Coming up, we're going to speak with a bankruptcy attorney who is an expert at helping everyday people when their backs are against the wall when we return from this commercial break. Al, you are a bankruptcy attorney, been practicing for many years here in Wilmington, North Carolina. Have you seen an increase in the number of seniors filing for bankruptcy?
I think so, Chuck. I've been practicing about 20 years now, and seniors these days, it seems, have more and more medical debt. Medical expenses skyrocket. They often help their children, and that can be expensive. And any sort of calamity could also throw a wrench in the works, and you could find yourself in a financial tailspin. And people are living longer, and their retirement's running out sooner, and they just don't have enough in the tank to last as much as they used to be able to make it.
I read recently that seniors are more afraid of running out of money than they are of dying. So this is a pretty serious area of discussion. What are some of the stories, without mentioning names, that from seniors? What are some of the reasons that clients of yours have used to want to file for bankruptcy? And then we're going to talk about how to go through the process and how to do it as well as can be expected.
Well, you're right. It's extremely stressful, especially if you've lived a long life, no financial problems, and then all of a sudden something comes up and you're running out. You're in territory you've never been in before. It can be very stressful. It can cause marital discord, and it can cause, you can make some very bad financial decisions and all of a sudden wind up a lot worse off than where you were in the first place. So it is important to come at the first sign of financial distress, or maybe you're not sure whether you're going to be okay. It's very important to come see an attorney, hopefully get you out of the situation you're in and get you back on your feet, because my clients, the last thing they want to do when they come to see me is to file bankruptcy. And so my first line of defense is, let's try to keep you from having to do that.
So explain to me, Al, the difference between a Chapter 13, which I think is to manage your debt and hopefully come out of bankruptcy and not have to deal with it anymore, and then you have a Chapter 7. So
well, those labels can be a little scary. So it's simply a request that you file and you disclose all of your assets and liabilities. And the purpose of any type of bankruptcy is to give you a discharge or an elimination of your debts. So the simplest type of bankruptcy is a Chapter 7. It's the simplest, it's the quickest, it's the most economical type of bankruptcy. And if somebody's eligible for Chapter 7, it's really the thing that they need to, if they have a choice, everything being equal, you're going to want to file Chapter 7 to get in and out pretty quickly.
Now, what do they have to do to be eligible for a Chapter 7?
Well, first of all, you come to somebody like me and we make sure that you're going to get to keep all of your assets. And most of our clients get to keep all the assets that they would like to keep.
Their home?
Their home. Bankruptcy is uniform throughout every state in America. North Carolina and each state have certain property that you can keep exempt from the bankruptcy case.
I know that's true in Texas and Florida, for example.
Texas and Florida have, for instance, unlimited homestead exemptions. So you can live on a $1 million Texas ranch and keep it. In most cases, you're able to keep household goods, vehicles, those types of things. 401ks, individual retirement accounts, any ERISA retirement plan, official retirement plan are exempt from the bankruptcy case. So what that tells you is if you're in financial distress, come see and talk to somebody before you start cashing out your retirement plan. Don't ever cash out your retirement plan. I hate to see that.
It's exempt.
It's exempt. There's no, and you've saved that money, it's yours, and it's exempt from your creditors. So don't ever do that. Don't ever borrow against your house to pay back your creditors, because many times you could keep your house. Don't ever take a reverse mortgage without coming and getting some expert advice and seeing where you are and what might be the best financial decisions to make.
I want to go back to something you said right at the very beginning of our discussion. You counsel new clients about how not to file bankruptcy.
Right.
What are some of the things you tell someone coming in saying, I'm broke, I can't manage the debt that I've incurred?
Depends on what your debt is. Now,
credit card debt, for example.
Credit card debt. Well, a good rule of thumb on credit card debt is try not to use your credit card for anything that you couldn't otherwise pay cash for. And so don't use your credit card if you can help it to finance purchases that you can't afford.
Right.
Look, it happens. So if that's already the case, that's where you are. Credit card companies will many times settle for pennies on the dollar. The Internal Revenue Service, if you have back taxes, many times will settle depending on what your finances are for pennies on the dollar. You have to be methodical and careful about the way you present the settlement offer.
Yes.
And sometimes it takes some time to get through. But those are options to settle debt and stay out of bankruptcy.
Now, will you help them do that? Will you
Of
help
course.
them navigate those waters?
Of course, we've got those tools, and we've got a lot of happy clients who never had to file bankruptcy. Nobody's ever known about their financial difficulties, and they're happy and back on their feet. And that's really our goal.
Any last words of advice for our viewers, especially our senior viewers who are retired? They're scared to death they're going to run out of their money. We all know there's lots of things that can happen. Mm-hmm. We have a very uncertain marketplace right now. The market could go upside down. I'm mindful of 2008.
Yep.
You know, you have what you think is a reasonable nest egg, and overnight you have 50% of what you thought you had. You incurred debt and maybe even kept a mortgage based on your holdings, but now the rug's been pulled out from under you, and you're all of a sudden in unexpected troubled waters. What advice might you have?
Well, you know, that's exactly right. You're in unexpected territory. There are plenty of people who are willing to help. It's a human situation. Come talk to somebody. Get some help. Get somebody who cares about you, who's going to take the time to understand your situation. And try to realize that you don't know your new situation. You don't know exactly how to handle it. And so get some good advice before you try to handle it on your own. And there's plenty of people willing to help you. Just pick up the phone and call. Try not to believe everything you read on the internet, because it can be scary, especially when you're talking about a bankruptcy case, and there's all types of misinformation out there about
Well, one of the things I've
bankruptcy.
learned from this conversation, Al, is talk to the bankruptcy attorney sooner rather than
Sooner.
later.
Absolutely.
Because he, which I didn't realize, he or she can actually help you negotiate your debt.
Look, if you're
Down.
sitting at home and your stomach is hurting and it hurts for maybe 3 days, you might go see a doctor early. You don't wait until that turns into a bigger problem. Same thing with a financial problem. If you're hurting for a while, just pick up the phone and come to see an expert. And many times we can solve these problems without having to resort to a bankruptcy. But if that's the best financial decision, we'll let you know, and chances are you'll be fine on the backside. So our goal is to try to help you in every way possible.
We're going to put your email address, your website on the screen for the viewers.
Okay.
And I can't think of anybody better for them to call. Al Butler, thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Chuck. My pleasure.
All of us over 65 have great concern about not running out of money. Some of the experts say we're more fearful of that than we are of dying. Hopefully we've given you some really good ideas about how to navigate this whole area of finance so that you won't run out of money in your lifetime. I'm Chuck Whitlock, and we'll see you next time.